stuff you need to remove the back window or even the front windshield off a crash ray body. This purple stuff is the ultra concentrated version of a glass cleaner mixed with water. You need some duct tape, you need some Dawn soapy water or any type of decent soapy water, an array and a collection of Bondo spreaders, some WD-40, more glass cleaner. That was a can I just happened to grab that actually works good for spraying overhead. But the duct tape helps as an extra set of hands, so it doesn't, so the whole glass, let's see if I can get this right in the angle. So the whole glass, once you pop this part out here loose, that doesn't want to slide backwards and fall down and smash to a million pieces. This is a tempered piece of glass, like side windows on most cars. If it smashes, it breaks apart in millions of pieces. If it was safety glass, it would actually have, let's see if I can do this. Safety glass would actually have like an inner and an outer piece of tempered glass where a piece of vinyl is in between them. Those glass would break. If it was safety glass like on a windshield, instead of breaking to 1,000 or millions of pieces, it would just kind of not, it would shatter and kind of just stay in place of itself, if that makes any sense. I'll dig out the front windshield here. I had this one covered up when I was welding and grinding near the front. This windshield's got to come out. But if you notice, I'll explain this in a minute. But if you notice, see the edges right here, how it looks like it's bubbling? That's the piece of clear lamination that's in between the two halves of the window. You got an outer and inner layer. This little piece here, the center section, is called a locking strip. And that is what this stuff is. Hang on a second. Basically, after you get the locking strip out, that goes in this groove right here, the locking strip expands out. It looks like a trapezoid shape, but you gotta basically just go through here and roll the edge of this thing down where that glass is actually sitting down here. And it's very tedious, it is time consuming. It's helpful if you have more than one set of hands, you know, aka multiple people. But basically it looked like this. And once you get it worked out and stuff, again, a lot of soapy water all through the top over here. But once you get the top kind of station where it's coming out and sliding down, is almost a double-edged sword. Once it comes down through here, it's going to be sitting farther in the groove in that little channel across to the point where you get this part out. And then you go under here. I'll take this one out for an example. You come down through here with the Bondo spreader and kind of wedge it between the edge of the rubber and the bottom of the glass to try to hold it in place. That's where you have multiple of these. More the merrier. Once you got that over there, this whole section is going to lift up. And once you kind of lift it up out, it'll lift up out of this section at the very bottom of that window seal. That'll allow you to get the Bondo spreaders under it, like this side. Basically just any way you can. You got thin and thick sides, whatever helps you out, whatever you're comfortable with. But you can actually kind of slide them through this way a little bit. It's a lot easier said than done. But once you get that thing out of there, this thing's gonna pop out. You're gonna eventually you'll pop it up and you slide it back this way on top of the seal. That'll allow you to have more room to get the seal out so the glass slides up and out of this groove. You cannot take and pop this side out first and expect the glass is gonna come out and back. It ain't gonna happen that way. You're gonna definitely break it and ruin it. But this is how you get the thing out of the weather stripping, if you want to reuse the weather stripping. If not, well, you can take a razor blade You just come through here in this groove and just slice that part out, but you make it useless. You have to order a new weather stripping, and that can be expensive. Alright, I'm back. See? You got the glass out. Just so you know how big that thing is. She big. One person job. It's easier if you have 2 or even 3 sets of hands. But the locking strip I was talking about, if you look on these things just right, see how they got 2 little tabs on both sides. And the way that it works, the glass sits in that trough right there. So when this thing's in there, see if I can do this right. Watch this trough right here. It goes real wide and real skinny. Let me shove it in there. See if I can do this one-handed. It'll close that cap. So literally, this is the only thing preventing that big glass window from flying out of the car when you have the runners rolled down, going down the interstate, or going down the highway, or whatever road you're on. See, once it's in there, it sits flat. Of course, when you get the end started, it's easy just to pull it right off. It's kind of like a zipper, all the way across. There's 3 pieces? No, 2 pieces. You got the main piece that goes all the way across. You got a tinier piece that goes across here, which you gotta get underneath this thing. Gotta remove this thing. Center logo or medallion or center chrome piece goes all the way across it. So yeah. A couple other things you got to remove before you even get the glass, even attempted to remove the glass. I mean, on the corners here, they have little, I don't know if you call them like triangle shaped or little V-shaped things. Little piece of like stainless steel or a piece of aluminum that kind of, in theory, this piece, the rest of it, the locking strip would actually be extended out more, but over time, the weather makes them heat up and shrink, and they become a mess. And it's supposed to be chrome. I don't think this one has any signs of chrome left on it, but it's more or less like a plasticky substance, and it just has a piece of chrome that was kind of like a clear coated chrome over it going across. But you gotta very much have patience. This car's had the glass back in it since 1966, and there's some spots here where you can see on the rubber itself where whoever worked on this car and repainted it back in the 80s before my dad bought it, they just taped up the window to paint over everything. You can see the edge where the primer and stuff was, and the tape edge where nothing really got right under it. There's lots of reasons why you'd want to take the glass out of a car to do anything, any type of working on them, either painting or restoration or just collision work in general. Basically, it boils down to you don't want to run the sander over it, you don't want to scratch the glass, score it, or even, well, in this case, how big this window is. If you're doing some welding, so I'm worried about more sparks and stuff, and loading sparks, grinding sparks, hitting the glass and etching into it. But also, how big this thing is. If I start doing any cutting, if that body flexes at all, it could potentially crack and shatter. But another thing, all of that's got to get cleaned up. Got a lot of work ahead of me on this thing, but this shows that it is possible to remove back glass off a 64, 65, or 66 Plymouth Barracuda one person. While I'm also in here, on the subject of the back window and the storage area, normally when you open the trunk hinges, you'd have a divider about right in this area that goes kind of at an angle. I gotta dig it out, I still got it somewhere. But it divides the cargo area of the trunk with the area underneath the back glass. And I think it was called a security tray or security panel or something, but it had these little latches that latched into here, kind of like you'd have on your storm window or screen window in your house or your porch. When you pop those two covers down, the thing would fall flat down here, cover up where the spare tire was, and have access a lot of flat storage area. And back seats would fold down. Hang on a second. Another example of the factory color. You see how much reinforcement they did to stiffen up the back of the chassis of this car to accommodate that giant back window. Normal shock towers, they added these gussets on both sides, plus the whole inner structure right there. Obviously this thing is really boxed in and pretty stout. Let's see if I can zoom in on this part here real quick. There's actually 3 layers of sheet metal there. There is 2 layers of, looks like 18 gauge with a center of maybe 16 gauge. That's on that, I guess you call it back hoop, or back trunk hinge area. Even in there they had, see if I can zoom out a little bit here. Yep, right in there they had even more reinforcement in there. They kind of boxed it in. Then they have this giant flat piece of metal, which is pretty thick. I mean, it's, I'd say at least 18 gauge thickness, maybe 17 gauge or some odd size. But they had that over there just to basically flatten that whole area out and add structure to it. I also had this piece here across there, which is another thick piece of metal. You have these little gussets on the ends. It's pretty neat how these things are actually designed and built. And these cars weren't necessarily, they weren't light and they weren't really heavy. They weighed, this particular car weighs 2,700 pounds on the title weight, the empty gross weight. But that is the factory colors, both on the shock towers, gloss turquoise metallic, and then the gloss black from back in 1966. Alright, I'm back. To give people an idea and perspective on how much room this thing's got. Alright, look. 11 feet. 11 feet of straight up storage room. Now obviously if you had the little cargo tray, little security tray, security panel, whatever it's called, folded down, you have back here under the glass, back here you have the back seat. I'll dig it out later. But back seat folds down, and then you can actually recline the front seat to have up into the passenger feet underneath the dashboard. This is the definition of a clown car. 11 feet of storage space. And from the back of the front seat till the back of the trunk lid area was about 7 feet. So you can literally store. It'd be a great car for anybody that's a mechanic, carpentry, plumbing, any type of business, anybody that wants to go to the beach. Obviously they advertise these things as, you know, hauling surfboards and skis and all that good natured stuff. But the best part is you can fold the back seats up and you can fit 3 people back there and 2 in the front seats. It's a sporty station wagon. Another reason why the back glass is coming out, I don't know if you can see that or not. The headliner was good until a mouse got into it and started ripping it up. And if you look at how these Chryslers are built, the headliner, let's see if this will work. The headliner curves under that window lip, or underneath the pinch welds that hold the roof panels together. So you got to take the back window out to replace the headliner, and it creates a giant can of worms and a giant mess. But original color, dark turquoise metallic is what Chrysler called it, and what Dodge called it. Plymouth called it surf turquoise metallic. LL1 is the paint code. Chrysler, one of the things they did, being that this car is based off the wagon, the Valiant wagon platform, what Chrysler did to distinguish, you know, the actual production number of the vehicle. See if this will come in. On the left rear wheel well, the inner wheel well, there's a panel welded on the vehicle that has the car's actual production number. Now, it's going to be upside down when you're looking at it from the interior, but the exterior, kind of poke in here and look at it, the I is actually a 1. Something that Chrysler used to do, but if you look at this one, the last 6 digits will be the car's actual model number. It says 100,089. Well, 100,000 is car number 1. So 100,089, that means this car is number 89 for the assembly line. So that set of numbers would be on the fender tag. Right there where it says SO number. The last 6 digits, 100089. BP's body type, Plymouth Barracuda. P4X is a trim. The paint code on the bottom, LL1 space B. LL1 is that turquoise metallic. Now they had 2 different turquoises back then. From 60 to 66, they had the darker blue with green metallic, green flake in the paint mixture, and then what would be, you know, the center color you see, the color that's a lighter aqua greenish color. That style, they reversed the paint chemical makeup. They pretty much reversed the color ingredients, so instead of being blue with a green metallic flake, they transformed it into a green turquoise with the blue flake, and they started this color, that section, they started that color from 67 to 76.